So, do you go hunting yourself?
I do. About 36 years now. This will be year number 37. So, predominantly been a bow hunter for about the last 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Picked up a rifle a few years ago for a veteran hunting opportunity that was rifle only, but that was fine. Um, but yeah, the last 12 years or so, maybe 13, was predominantly bow. Do chase birds occasionally, but turkey and grouse are all with a bow. And then this year I'm going to try a goose hunt with a bow just to see if it's possible.
I guarantee it's possible, but
Yep.
getting it every so often, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple small ponds and a couple of little creek beds up in the woods that the birds like to land in, and apparently they'll settle into for an hour or better. So if you just settle in and let them get comfortable and take the shot, and hard part's going to be go get them.
Yeah. Well, the good news is if you go from an elevated position or whatnot, or, slightly elevated, you can get a good shot right at them. It'll peg them right to the ground.
That's right. That's the end goal. It's just pin them, be done.
The problem is the broadhead is no longer going to be viable if it hits rock.
You know, I run annihilators and have for the last few years, and I've hit a few rocks after full pass throughs. Everything's still usable, everything's still resharpenable. Might have busted a little bit off the tip, but put it back on the sharpening stone for a couple hours, and you're good to go again.
What's an annihilator?
Annihilator broadheads. If you're not familiar with it, it's a 3-blade fixed blade. Um, you just put it on a flat grinding stone or sharpening stone to sharpen them up. They run 100, 125. They run a 7/8 cutting diameter. XL is a 1 3/16 cutting diameter. Um, Phenomenal broadheads. I've used them, like I said, for the last 4 years at least.
Dang. Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. So,
Yeah, they're absolutely great.
geez, hell.
And I've
I think
come through.
I'm looking at the katana.
Yep, that's the newest model. I'm not old on that one just yet, but I see where they're benefit to some of their design. Um, for that
Ow.
one, the sharpening for me would be a challenge, whereas the initial annihilators, they originally started to sell it as you could punch through a hood of a car and it's still shootable, and that's a true statement.
Mm-hmm.
I put it through a grouse and hit a rock and picked the grouse up, picked the arrow up, looked at the blade and the broadhead and said, okay, yeah, I've got a sharpening stone in my pack. Let's spend 5 minutes on a sharpening stone. The next day I put it through an elk.
Nice. I think it was 2 years ago when I got the buck behind me. Uh, I had shot a doe, and it literally was at category angle, but she took off, and it was still in her. The next week, I took the buck,
Yeah.
same broadhead, no sharpening.
Yeah.
I use exact archery broadheads in these things.
I like
Uh,
I like to sharpen them in between just to make sure that there's a good cutting edge across it. Try to polish them as best I can. So whether it hits rib cage or whether it hits shoulder bone, it's just going to bust through it and keep going.
oh, this one, I shot through her shoulder plate and took out her lung, and she, yeah, and yeah, like I said, it went on to kill that guy. So
Yep. That.
uh, yeah, I'm not knocking a broadhead, and it was $20 at the time. I think he went up a little bit in price, but it's like, yeah, that's something to get to.
Right. And when you find
So,
something that you know and you trust and you know that flies well, stick with it.
yep. So you're playing what big game are you planning on going after this year?
So this year I will be chasing elk and bear. Um, I
Hmm.
got either sex tags for either one. I've got them in the same unit. I did have a draw tag in Colorado for both of those. Unfortunately, the area that I was going to go hunt has spent 2 weeks on fire, and so I had to turn those tags in and go for over the counter unit. But I've hunted Colorado most of my life, so jumping into an over the counter unit won't be that bad. It might spend a day or two figuring out what the new patterns look like, and then put some on the ground and fill the freezer.
So you have a pretty good idea that you're going to be filling the freezer regardless with bear and elk.
I have a fairly high success rate. I go about every 2 years putting an elk on the ground, and I usually do a mule deer every year.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just doing whitetail so far. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you got out there.
Yeah. Right.
Makes sense.